Hello, and welcome to another episode of the FemiNinja Project. And thank you so much for tuning in. I have another spectacular guest with me today. You are going to love her. Her name is Jenny C. Cohen, and she is an embodiment and visibility master who helps high achieving 40 plus entrepreneurs lead with bold, soul led presence. She is the creator of the Spotlight Confidence Formula, former award winning dancer, neurosomatic practitioner, multi time number one international best selling award winning author, and host of the Dance to Heal podcast. She is also a breast cancer and complex PTSD survivor who presents a multidisciplined approach to heal so you can truly thrive. Jenny, thank you so much for being here and welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Cheryl. I'm so excited.
I just want to know, when do you sleep?
I actually now make it a priority to sleep. I've discovered I don't sleep enough. I used to think 7 hours, 8 hours was a luxury.
Hmm.
And I actually realized because I've been in deep conversation with my body since
Hmm.
I started hormone replacement therapy back in April, May,
Hmm.
that I'm not getting enough sleep. And I've had to focus on sleep,
Hmm.
hydration, and like dance every day. And those were the
Hmm.
three things my that are non-negotiable with my body.
Hmm. Very good. Yeah, sleep to me is kind of like almost sacred. And if I don't get enough sleep, it's just, what's the point? I can't really do anything else.
I agree. I agree. I didn't even know that I had sleep apnea. My husband was snoring. Like, we're married now like 34 years.
Uh-huh.
I would say as long as I remember, he's always snored, and it
Uh-huh.
depended on the degree of fatigue, right?
Hmm.
And we noticed in the last 5, 10 years, his snoring had increased a lot. Like he would fall asleep watching TV and start snoring.
Hmm.
So we, after much convincing, all right, the therapist got him to do it, not me. Okay, the therapist got him to get a sleep apnea test, and he
Uh-huh.
had pretty moderate complex CPAP needs.
Wow.
So he got a CPAP machine. We figured it out. He's sleeping soundly, and he said to me, "Jenny, you snore at night." I'm like, "No, I don't." He's like, "No, you didn't hear me yourself because I was snoring, and you probably
Hmm.
weren't sleeping. But now I'm sleeping deeply, and you snore on and off." So he got me another type of online test you strap to your finger,
Uh-huh.
and I had worse sleep apnea than my husband.
Oh my goodness. So do you have
Mm-hmm.
to sleep with a CPAP
Oh,
machine or do
yes.
you?
The whole
Wow.
gadget, the whole head strap thing. What was interesting is on my O2 ring, because it was
Uh-huh.
tracking, let's say it was tracking my heart rate
Hmm.
and my oxygenation in my blood through my
Uh-huh.
finger, right?
Yes.
And so throughout the night before my CPAP, I was waking up roughly 30 times an hour. Yes. My O2 levels were dropping to like 70, 80%, which is what they hospitalize you for.
Yeah.
And my heart rate was up in the 80s and 90s in my sleep.
Oh my goodness.
Yes. And now on my CPAP machine, I have lots of chunks of REM sleep. I'm rarely awake.
Hmm.
My heart rate drops down to 60 and 50,
Hmm.
and I stay about 98% O2 saturated at
Hmm.
night.
So do you feel much better in the morning? I would assume you would. You'd have a lot more energy than you had before. Did that change with the
It
CPAP?
was huge. The CPAP machine, it was worth the hassle. It is a pain. Like you got to
Yeah.
travel with it. You have to clean it every day. You have to set it up. You have to have
Yeah.
distilled water. And the quality of sleep I was getting, I was feeling a huge shift in my brain fog. The menopause brain fog from chemotherapy was different than this lack of sleep brain fog. So
Wow.
I couldn't even hear, my whole platform is about being reconnected with your body. But I
Hmm.
couldn't even begin that step because I wasn't resting enough. When you
Right.
sleep, your entire brain goes through a rewashing when you're resting.
Right.
And if you don't give yourself that downtime, you're literally building up toxins in your brain.
Wow. Well, you'll be happy to know that when we did move to this little town, I was sleeping 12 hours a night
That's amazing.
because I was so tired and it wasn't just my body, it was my body and my brain and and the emotional roller coaster trying to figure out new surroundings and a new community, and I would just sleep through the night. It was 12 hours.
I love that you you made that a priority, Cheryl, and think about all the learning that you simulated in your brain from that shift in your surrounding. That's
Mm-hmm.
amazing because we are oftentimes, routines are really wonderful because they keep us really grounded, and you still need the stimulation from community and being outside of the house. That's
Mm-hmm.
really vital. Even if you don't like people, okay, I'm one of those. I'm very social, but I also don't like people. You can't predict how they're gonna be,
I
right?
I won't tell anybody that. Okay, it's our little
Like
secret.
you'll see me as I'm going to Podfest next week. It's like I'm volunteering and I'm speaking, and so I love people, and I also
Uh-huh.
don't like people because sometimes if a person's really stressed,
Mm-hmm.
very few of us know how to regulate that and not spill out onto other people. And
Mm-hmm.
right now, we have a lot of stress in this particular country we reside in,
Mm-hmm.
and there's no regulation at all. So
Mm-hmm.
I have
Right,
to put all up
exactly.
a lot of barriers to go out.
A lot of barriers to go out and the dance. Because do you find that, as a dancer myself, again, some things are non-negotiable. And I feel so much better when I go to a ballet class and come home, even though it's a little bit rough getting out of the car, because after taking a ballet class and sitting for 47 minutes in the car, it's like, what happened to my hips? But it's one of those things that it just helps keep me grounded in a world gone nuts.
Yes. And what I would love for your amazing audience to really hear in this is that dance and the freedom and growth it affords everyone is a birthright. And it actually is quite free. Okay?
Mhm.
So anytime you feel like you're in a surrounding where you're intuitively feeling its music. I've had clients that like to dance to rainfall. Like they're like, I really don't understand this modern music, all this electronic. That's stupid. Like I love the sound of waves and rain. I'm like, great, go find a soundtrack of that for free on YouTube
Mhm.
and move to it. And I'm not saying move to it like your brain thinks it needs to. Move to it intuitively how your body wants to. I'm
Mhm.
currently doing 100 days of dance on all of my social media platforms to show people how easy it is, and I'm giving people the prompts. And I'm doing it
Oh,
myself.
nice.
So, yeah, so if you or your audience wants to want to, you ever had those times where your brain's 4 sentences ahead of what your mouth is doing?
Yes.
If you join my broadcast channel, it's called Genspiration. I'm giving the behind the scenes links to my personal videos when I'm
Mhm.
practicing and then my notes.
Mhm.
Because oftentimes we find the release in the dancing or the movement,
Mhm.
then how do we process it? And I give some feedback on how to do that.
Tell me again the name Jen what?
Je- It's called,
Jen.
so if you go to Jenny C. Cohen on my Instagram,
Uh-huh.
they have the broadcast channels you can join for free. And mine is called Genspiration.
I love that. Did that pop into your head at 3 o'clock in the morning? Because I usually get my inspiration like that, names and stuff. It's like, hey, this sounds great. It's 3 o'clock in the morning. I better get out of bed and write it down.
I lo- I'm usually sleeping, thank God now.
Yes.
What happens is I get downloads either during my dancing
Hmm.
or after I've done dancing, so my mind and body are really connected, and then I'll get downloads throughout the day.
Hmm. So now a lot of people are probably thinking, well, I'm not a dancer. I really don't know how to dance. I feel awkward dancing. But, you said it already. It's your birthright. Dance is our birthright. And I like to tell people who say, I can't dance, I'm too awkward. It's like, no, everybody knows how to dance. We were born to dance. I mean, look at a baby. Baby hears some music and they don't care if they're just falling all over the place. They don't care. They don't think that people are criticizing them. They have absolutely no inhibition whatsoever. And it is like that saying goes, dance as though no one is watching.
Absolutely. And you look at the science of it, they're now doing way more scientific research regarding the influence of dance.
Hmm.
They've noted that it helps people who are in very deep dementia, it'll bring them out because it's
Hmm.
associated with their memories of their youth. And
Mm-hmm.
now they're even tracking what parts of the brain light up when you're dancing.
Mm-hmm.
And it's one of the few activities that lights up multiple parts of your brain at the same time. For
Mm-hmm.
me, that's effective because that gets us present. I
Mm-hmm.
love to tune people into their five senses, breath
Mm-hmm.
work, and then you dance during that. And now
Mm-hmm.
you're activating every part of your brain. And
Mm-hmm.
then you can get yourself present within seconds. Most of the time, we're either worried about something happened in the past, we're ruminating it, or we're planning about something that's going to happen in the future that might happen. We have to stay safe.
Mm-hmm.
And really, the safest time is when you're actually present in the moment.
Mm-hmm. I love that. And I just had a thought, but it just went, it was there and then it flew away like a little bird. But yeah, I can come back to that. I'm sure it'll pop into my head. I'll call you and let you know.
Yes.
So when when you work with people who are a little bit more reluctant or reticent to, they're awkward, they're shy, and they still have that deep in their brain that, they can't dance. I mean, how do you then just introduce some form of movement and music and just let it rip?
Okay. So I want to be fairly inclusive of your audience members.
Hmm.
For those of us who are listening who are mobile, right? You're
Hmm.
not in a wheelchair or use a walker or crutches. If
Hmm.
you can walk, you can dance.
Hmm.
Now, peeling back from that perspective, we're all made of cells that vibrate to the frequency of sound. So even if you're completely still, the atoms in your body are vibrating to frequencies of sound around you.
Hmm.
And when you physically move, you're activating from that energy, right?
Hmm.
So if you can even imagine yourself walking or going through the motions of movement, you can dance.
Hmm.
We need to come off of this hierarchy of what constitutes dance. Because I'm not asking you to perform on a stage. I'm
Hmm.
saying you, everyone listening to this, and between you and I also, we don't have to be in a studio to dance. Let's be honest. How many are listening to music and you come out of a shower and you're naked and you feel really free and you're like bopping naked a little bit, a little head wag, a little booty side to side when you're naked and you feel really free. That's the type of dancing I'm saying. When you're
Hmm.
so full of something and you just have to move. That's what I want everyone to give themselves that right to
Hmm.
move when you feel moved,
Hmm.
right?
That
Because
grace
that's
in
the
that
goal.
space.
Yeah, yes, the grace of taking up that space.
Hmm.
And so if you think of it from that perspective, then it's not
Hmm.
about, oh, because my husband and I, we just started West Coast swing lessons. And I have to really be like, I'm the student, I'm not the teacher, because I'm a dance instructor. And we hired a male instructor because then he could lead my husband through his
Right.
body language. He can mirror what he's doing because if we have female instructors, he can't mimic the female instructor. So
Right.
we in particular chose Luciano. He's so sweet. This is a really sweet young man. And we joke when we're practicing, we're like, oh my God, you've got Luciano's hips, right? And that particular dance form, it's actually very complicated. It's very hard. All the leading is up to the
Wow.
leader. All right. So my husband who does not dance, he's like, oh my God, he's practicing before his hospitalization. He's practicing every day to try and remember the steps and the lead and the arms. And then he can't remember to breathe. And he's looking down. And I have to joke at him, stop looking at my boobs. He's like, I'm not looking at your boobs. I'm looking at my feet. I'm like, I know. That's what I'm saying. Don't look down. Like, look up a little bit. Right. If you take that stuff away,
Hmm.
when he's in the moment, and it happens for about 20, 30 seconds at a time when we're in our lessons,
Hmm.
there's just joy on his
Hmm.
face when he's starting to get to the point where he can do it unconsciously.
Hmm.
That level we already have access to, Cheryl.
Hmm.
If you just take away the technique and don't worry about it. Like I love ballet and I learned a lot of body image problems from ballet. My
Oh,
son's a
yes.
right? My son's a ballet major and he said,
Oh.
"Mom, do you know that all the mirrors in the ballet programs are warped?" And I went, "What do you mean?" He's like, "Mom, they're warped. I think they're on purpose to help the girls doubt their self body image."
Oh, jeez. You know what? I believe it. And it's really funny because I've danced now, you know, I started ballet when I was like 19 or 20. One of my cousins dragged me to a little beginning ballet class on campus. We were in the same college. And she, of course, quit right away and I was hooked. But through those years, so that was 20 until, so we're looking at almost 50 years here. And seeing, you could walk into, and this is kind of universal for every ballet studio, you walk into a brand new studio you have not been in yet, and immediately you can identify the skinny mirror. And that's where everybody is fighting to stand in front of the skinny mirror. It's just crazy. And of course, like you said, it's just, almost by intention to have us doubt and critique ourselves and not in a healthy way.
Yes, it's this subconsciously working on you to self-doubt, and then
Mhm.
there's a hierarchy of authority in the studio
Mhm.
spaces sometimes. And the
Mhm.
goal I want everyone, especially adult learners, to understand is that the autonomy still lies with us.
Mhm.
And even if you accidentally stumble on a teacher that still has the old school way of thought, you can at least consciously decide, do you really want to be a part of that? Because I
Right.
discovered once we started really talking to our bodies, like my son's a ballet major. Okay, so he graduated from the University of Utah, one of the three only programs in the country with a ballet degree. There's only two other schools that have ballet degrees, right?
Wow.
And because he was an elite athlete in gymnastics and he went into ballet, they were like,
Mhm.
"Oh my God, he's got beautiful lines." And he even studied here. We have a very ranking ballet company called Ballet West, and they have a
Mhm.
school. And Daniel, they had a competition at Capitol Theater, and he went in to speak with the director at the time. And he was like, "I'd really like to join your program." And the director said, "Well, why don't you take a free class and we'll take a look?" And they enrolled him on the spot after the class because they just loved his lines and his feet.
Mhm.
And he worked his butt off to be worthy
Mhm.
of being considered to be a trainee for the program. But then he was being told at the time, this is 4 or 5, right before the panini. I call the pandemic the panini.
I
Right
like
before the
that.
panini lockdown, a few years before that, he decided, oh, you know what? They're telling me, mom, that I could never be a principal in Ballet West because they're going towards 6 feet tall male dancers, and I'm only 5'8". So I'm too short. I might actually be hired occasionally as a jumper. They're saying I have great jumping, but I'll
Mhm.
never have a future because although female leads were not getting taller and taller.
Jeez.
Okay, and so he said, "Yeah, I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go to university, the university, because they were trying to. The professor there was actively recruiting my son to join the University of Utah ballet program, the men's
Mhm.
program. So then he switched, but then at that same time, they finally Ballet West was like then extending him a trainee an invitation. He's like, I can't do both because he had heard horror stories about
Right.
people who try to do both trainees and do the U of U, and they were being constantly told you have to choose trainee first. So
Yeah.
he's like, I'm not going to
Wow.
do that because they were promising him, no, 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 we won't do that. He's like, no, no, but I know better because I know people who are actually in the program being pulled in different directions. And he's
Oh.
like, because U is expensive, and also the when you're a trainee, they don't pay you enough, so you have to work at the same time.
Mhm.
And then he was getting leading roles like in Don Quixote. He was a lead role in that, and then the pandemic hit, the penny hit,
Wow.
and so then he was like, "Mom, it was so hard to finish the program because they used him on the postcard to recruit about 10 young men into the program. They went
Mhm.
to lockdown. After a year, everybody went back to school. Danny couldn't because he had type 1 diabetes
Ugh.
and severe asthma, so he couldn't go in until they came up with the vaccines. So he
Mhm.
was dancing. I'm actually in the basement. He was in the studio space. He has PTSD still from being in the space. He won't come down here anymore because he was
Oh.
like, kind of like forgotten for like a year and a half, 2 years during
Uh-huh.
his 4 years of university. So
Wow.
yeah, I don't know how we got off from the tangent, but like,
Yeah. Well, it's really interesting though because I think people have this image in their head of, being a ballet dancer is the most highest form of achievement. I even remember hearing, women in ballet say, "Oh,
yeah,
I wished I had been a professional ballerina. That most wonderful." And it's like, no, it's kind of like cutthroat.
it,
And the way that that they treat you, and I'm not saying I don't want to, I'm not saying this is universal, but certain schools that you might land in or with certain instructors or whatever, and it's almost like their job is to beat you down.
it comes from cultures where my kids did rhythmic gymnastics, so they had a
Mhm.
coach from the Ukraine where
Ah,
she was recruited as a 3 year old to be a part of the national team.
oh my
And
God.
these countries where these high level sports are funded by the government,
Hmm.
everyone is quite excited when their child is picked. But then your child's taken away from you and raised outside of your home and trained to be an athlete to represent the
The home
country.
country.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the thing is, when they pick you, because the same thing happens in like in Asia, in Asian like China, right?
Hmm.
And so for every 50 kids they pick, there's another 100 in the waiting rooms. So if a child breaks during training, they have more to replace them. Does that make sense?
Oh,
So it's a little bit different in that
yeah.
versus here, every child is beloved by us and it's all
Hmm.
funded by parents if they're
Yeah.
affluent enough to afford the training.
Uh-huh.
And so those countries, like, we didn't even realize that our coach was a brand new coach. We
Hmm.
didn't know she was practicing on our kids to be a coach because there were different rules. You know what I mean? And so her thing is that she would come in and she would act like the authority, but she was faking it. We didn't know because we're paying out of pocket. There's no way to assess how well known are they.
Hmm.
How do I know this? Because when my daughter, she went to Junior Olympics,
Hmm.
and we found out behind the scenes that certain tricks that our coach had tried to had her learn were
Hmm.
not appropriate for the level she was competing at. So the coach is at last minute trying to change my daughter's routine behind the scenes right before she goes to compete
Oh,
at the Junior
jeez.
Olympics.
Oh, that's
Like,
abusive.
hello.
Yeah, that is just abusive. So, okay, you froze for a moment, and we're just going to hang on here until we get you back. There you
You
go.
know? And so, yeah. So that was pretty eye opening.
Yeah.
That was pretty eye
Wow.
opening.
So I'm going to go back. This
Yeah.
is really, it's kind of off the subject. It's kind of tangential, but just because of what you're describing, that to me sounds, very traumatizing, and abusive to the kids and the dancers. But just the role of dance and healing PTSD. And I think we froze again. Okay, just pop. Can you hear me? Oh no. Oh no, I lost you.
Cohen. So sorry, Mr. Hall. Cohen. So sorry, Mr. Hall. Leave your name, number, and message, and I will get back to you as soon as possible. Thanks so much.
Hey, I lost you. You froze and then all of a sudden you were gone. So I don't know if we could maybe log out and log back on and pick up from there, or what would you like to do? Just let me know. Ah, hello.
I'm back.
You're back. Okay. So I know where I left off.
Great.
Just pick up. Okay. So like I said, this is getting a little bit tangential and a little
Yeah.
tiny bit off the subject, but not really, because what we're talking about with how some of the dancers were being abused,
Mhm.
in my term, I'm using that phrase. But the link to healing through dance and trauma and how that works, because I could remember when I had a trauma, this actually how I all started with my martial art. Um, and I mean, it was so bad and nobody was helping me. I was seeking help and I just kept getting, slapped down. It was horrible. And I would go downstairs in my basement, my girl cave back there in Denver, and I had a specific CD that was one of the guys he was a musician. He would play, as a pianist for us. And it was a very powerful music. It was like boom, 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 boom. And I would just go downstairs, I would blast that music, and I would just move my body and I would just get it out, like that, all that pent up energy had to go somewhere because it was killing me.
Yes. So we have to remember, when you're anything you experience in life, your body was there to witness it with you.
Mm,
Everything from the day you were born. So your body holds memory of every single thing. How you perceived is one thing, and then your body records it
mm-hmm,
chemically and how you perceived it, and then physically and how you witnessed it.
mm-hmm.
And to heal, it's vital now. There's been this uptick in somatic therapists, right? Where they're
Yes.
like, oh, you got to move it through your body. The key, though, also is, once your body feels trust, that's when you can actually make healing, lasting changes. There are a lot of wonderful coaches now that can give you like a quick fix right now so you can know what it feels like to feel healed.
Mm-hmm,
And we tend to go back to your status quo, though, unless there's ways to keep you in that other state of healing.
mm-hmm,
Okay, so that's the real talk here.
mm-hmm,
I will never, I rarely will say to someone, oh, well, this work is done. There's
mm-hmm,
always, here's work for you to facilitate this continuing with you now that
mm-hmm,
our work is done.
mm-hmm,
Okay, because life is still happening. Life is still happening as we're alive.
mm-hmm,
The when we're done evolving is the day we die, because then we'll go
mm-hmm,
return to whence we came, right?
mm-hmm,
So the goal is to always be evolving, being present at the same time. Dance towards that. If
mm-hmm,
you think of, in the animal world, when any animal hits a situation where it feels powerless or has stress, that animal will shake it off of their body. Dog
mm-hmm,
shake, cat shake, a deer that missed being killed by a leopard or something, right?
mm-hmm,
It'll shake itself off before it joins
mm-hmm,
a herd.
mm-hmm,
Our form of shaking, one way, is dance. Now there are other people right now, Cheryl, who are doing, like, they do shakes therapy.
mm-hmm,
Beautiful. And we want to do the step after, which is the processing of it. Because
mm-hmm,
we can actually get addicted to it. Like for me,
mm-hmm.
during my cancer treatment, I used dance to come back in my body because I kind of had to exit it during the chemo.
Yeah.
Yeah, during chemotherapy, surgery, radiation, I had another year of infusions. They're
Uh-huh.
pumping poison to try and kill the cancer cells that are spread all over.
Mm-hmm,
And then it's not really comfortable. And there's damage happening. I mean, you have chemo brain that can happen because they can't limit the chemo from entering your brain.
mm-hmm,
So I had to disassociate during the treatment, and dance
mm-hmm,
would bring me back in my body.
mm-hmm,
Then when the treatment was done, I shifted it subconsciously into an escape
mm-hmm.
because I had the post treatment body. I was in menopause, didn't know the long term effects that were coming.
Oh.
I didn't feel safe in my body because I
Mm-hmm.
felt that it betrayed me. Here was at my healthiest, Cheryl, and all of a sudden I have cancer. Like, what are you talking about? I was working out and vegan and lost weight and I had all this muscle. How
Oh.
could cancer showed up,
Mm-hmm,
right? And I was angry, and then I felt shame and I felt really guilty. Like, why did I live and these friends died from cancer?
mm-hmm.
So you're dealing with all these feelings. So my dance was my escape. When you're in dance class, do you feel an exchange of energy, Cheryl? When you're in ballet
Oh yeah.
class, right?
Oh
You
yeah.
feel an exchange. And I was using that during my treatment, but then I started using that as a way to escape my life.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So it became an escape, a way to run away. And I would run away and not be, not be present with my family. And it wasn't until there's a trigger warning for your audience. It wasn't until my daughter went into pretty severe distress and told us about her suicidal ideation, and she was self-harming pretty severely, that it pulled me, it stopped me cold. And I went,
Right.
wait a minute,
Wow.
like what happened? Like I missed all the signs. She had been
Wow.
masking and we didn't know.
Wow.
And then that's when I was like, oh, okay, no more escaping. We need to, we need to get really present really fast. But here's
Mm-hmm.
the thing, I still wasn't present. I didn't really understand how serious it was until her
Mm-hmm.
relapse 2 weeks after she first told us. That was really
Wow.
scary. That was really scary, her relapse.
That is terrifying. How old was she when this happened? Uh-oh, lost you again. I wonder if I pause it again. Let's just pause. Okay, so then, I mean, how did you handle that with, to me, that would be, I mean, I don't have children of my own, but that would be absolutely terrifying to have a child who was in that much distress.
Yes, it was. Honestly, when she first told us, I went into clinical mode because I was an OT before and I had worked in a lockdown unit with youth. And I
Wow.
thought we just set her up with therapy,
Uh-huh.
and lock up all the sharp objects. That includes pencil sharpeners, those have blades in them, right, that are
Mm.
removable. We did
Mm-hmm.
a thorough search throughout the house. And then I missed a shelf of unopened fish fillet knives. And she had a relapse 2 weeks later. So what I thought was what she needed wasn't really what she needed. What she needed was for me to stop running away and
Mm-hmm.
be present. And that's when I started actively fostering kittens with the local humane society.
Mm-hmm.
And we just took it moment by moment, feeding by feeding of the kittens. And during that first few months, she just slept, and we try to get her back on self care and feeling safe again in the house. And then
Mm-hmm.
it became a goal of hers to be able to foster kittens with me. And my golden rule was, you have to be safe for the kittens to be safe.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how she recovered, like month by month, litter by litter of kittens. So then she
Oh.
ended up graduating from college,
Mm-hmm.
high ranking. I don't remember what those ranks are with the whatever points. I know
Mm-hmm.
I'm Asian. I don't really care about that stuff. Like, I don't care. I'm like, my kids are avid learners. They learn to
Uh-huh.
learn through
Uh-huh.
homeschooling. So she graduated like with a 4.0 average, and
Wow.
she fostered her own kittens just this year. So we're really, really grateful that she's still
Mm-hmm.
here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, amen to that. Well, I wish her well and, long and happy, healthy life and, the healing power of dance and the healing power of animals. You cannot discount that.
Yep, yep, for
So
sure.
I want to get on, I have a question. What is the Spotlight Confidence Formula?
Mm, mm.
And how did that come about?
Uh, yes. When I grew up, I always felt it was later on a symptom of like ADHD and complex PTSD, but I always felt like I was in the middle of a movie
Uh,
when I was growing up. And I had this realization that we're all in our own movies all the time. Even when you're alone, you're literally in, like, that's your solo moment in your movie.
mhm,
And how you show up in every moment is reflected in how your perception of how you're treated.
mhm,
Okay? I can walk through a store when I'm feeling really, really good and be greeted with smiles.
mhm,
I may not be smiling, but if I'm feeling really good and grounded, people smile at me before I need to smile at them.
mhm,
Or it's a gradual smiling together.
mhm,
If I'm feeling very down, and I'm out and about, it feels like everybody's pushing their cart in front of me, or they're backing into me, or they're looking at me funny, right? And so it's like just one of those things where how grounded I am will be reflected back to me and how
Mm-hmm.
world is. And if I were to suggest to you, me, your audience, now see yourself as being in a spotlight. And it's not a glaring, bright, ugly, it's a warm,
Mm-hmm.
inviting spotlight that shows your best angles no matter where you are, upside down, sideways.
Mm-hmm.
And to feel so comfortable to being seen and held all the time, that's how we function best in our relationships, work, creativity, and our play, when you're growing, when you're healing, when you're resting.
Mm-hmm. And so then are there techniques that you teach people how to do, how to create that space for themselves, even like when they go out in public?
Yes, there are. I talk about tuning into your five senses first, right?
Mm-hmm.
Smell, taste, hearing, touch, and your peripheral field.
Mm-hmm.
We tend to go through them sequentially. I'm asking you to hold all five senses at the same time. It's pretty much impossible, but that's the point. So you're alternating through all of them. I used to walk my dogs and think, okay,
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to taste my favorite taste, which is Earl Grey tea,
Mm-hmm.
and then smell my favorite smell. Oh, it's Earl Grey tea, smelling and tasting it. Try not to walk off the side of the sidewalk, right?
Yeah.
And then I'm walking the dog, so I feel the leashes, and then I see the scene in front of me of the sidewalk and the roads and the cars passing by, and I can feel the sun on my body, and I can smell, and I can smell like the scent of the grass by going by me. So if you tune into those five senses, then I would think, okay, I'm gonna add breath, inhale, and then exhale, and I would feel super present.
Mm-hmm.
Then I could react to anything. I would know when a person was walking by if their dog was gonna go out of control or not,
Mm-hmm.
versus if I worried their dog was gonna go out of control.
It's awareness is what you're talking about. Self-awareness and situational awareness and somatic awareness. I mean, it's just all
It's
of
all wrapped
paying
into one.
attention.
Yeah, yeah. And then when you do that regularly, opportunities present themselves every day, right?
Mm-hmm.
For example, whether or not they're gonna join my master class for my monthly master class at movetobloom.com, right?
Mm-hmm.
If they if they're really in tune, they'll know, hey, this is something you need to check out.
Mm-hmm.
Or, no, this is something you need to refer to your friend. Or
Mm-hmm.
this is not a nut now, but I'll put it down for later,
Mm-hmm.
versus, right, usually I'm me, myself, and you, we're bombarded with all these opportunities, and oftentimes we don't know what to do, or we'll say yes to everything or no to everything.
Mm-hmm.
If you're really in tune with yourself, you know what's meant for you now.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So I also want to ask you about your books. I mean, how many books have you written? When did you find time to do that? And tell us, what they're about, maybe the titles and stuff, and where people can find them.
Yes, you. All my books are available on Amazon.
Mm-hmm.
If you do the master class, there's an option to get a couple of chapters.
Mm-hmm.
The my solo book is called Outside in Recovery: Dancing My
Mm-hmm.
Way Back to Myself After Breast Cancer, and that one's around the whole recovery process that I
Mm-hmm.
used after breast cancer, which is very relevant to all of us because we all survived the pandemic, the panini,
Yes.
and we are all going through survivorship right now.
Yeah.
And then I've co-authored in chapters with creativity through Jessica Hughes, her creativity books. And
Mm-hmm.
then there's a speaker program based out in Boise, Idaho, Idaho,
Mm-hmm.
Idaho, and they did a compilation book called Turning Points 2, and I have a chapter in that. And everything's available on Amazon too.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. And then tell us about your podcast. What in the world prompted you to start a podcast? Because as we all know, a podcast is a lot of work. It's a
It's a
lot of
lot.
fun,
It's
but it's a lot of work.
yeah. So truth be told, I actually always wanted a podcast and didn't do it until I met someone who said, "Hey, if you give me a big chunk of money, I'll set everything up for you." And I went, "All right, let's go." 'Cause- I'm sorry, Cheryl. I was like, we had a credit card like room, and I was like, "Let's go," because I look Asian. I blow everything up in tech. we've lost reception 4 times in this call so far, right?
Uh-huh.
I think there's a frequency in me that cuts off energy things or
Uh-huh.
blows things up. I had a dance teacher that every time she wore an electronic watch, she would drain the batteries from her frequency. She would
Oh my
drain her car
goodness.
batteries. Yeah. I don't think I'm that powerful yet, but I do throw electronics into like outer space when like if I get angry, my computer completely shuts down.
Oh
It's
my
afraid of me.
goodness. Oh my God.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so years ago, I would have heard this, and I'm talking years ago, and I would have poo-pooed the whole thing. And it's like, nah, I don't poo-poo stuff like that anymore because I've seen what it can do. I mean, even just with the training that I do for,
Yeah.
or did, I mean, I'm not training right at this moment, in the martial art, just the energy between two people. And, I one time stopped a guy, it was during a test, and it was random attacks. So there were, one person would attack me, then a second person, and blah, blah, blah. And they kept, variety of different weapons and stuff too. You never knew what was coming at you. And this guy, he came at me. I was standing in the center of the mat. He came at me he had a big stick in his hand. This guy was at the time, he was in like early 20s. I was 40, I was 57. And, big guy, he had been studying martial arts since he was 7 years old. And there I am. And, he's coming at me at that stick. And I just gave him a look and I stopped him in his tracks. It was crazy. He stopped, he hesitated, and then he came at me. But it was like I gave him something to think about. And it's on video. I've got the video somewhere. But is that crazy?
I like
So it's
that.
amazing what you can do with intention and your energy and your focus and your awareness.
Yes, yes, yes. And it's one of those things where I always wanted to do a podcast, and then when she presented it and gave me that opportunity, where they did
Mhm.
everything for me, I just had to provide some raw
Wow.
materials, you know.
Wow.
But then I discovered, oh, but you still couldn't find me because I was subcontractor under 3 different people.
Oh.
And then I found another person who's based out in England. Her name is Kay Souther. And
Hmm.
her whole thing is Make Your Mark podcasting agency. And she reset me up so there was everything under my name. And then all of a sudden on Google, if you typed in Jenny C. Cohen, I was the first 10 things that popped up,
Wow.
which was phenomenal. I was like, whoa,
Yeah.
now people can find me.
Yeah.
And I wanted people to find me because at the time when I was graduated from my breast cancer treatment in 2015, there
Hmm.
was nothing out there. There weren't even that. I couldn't find any podcasts talking about survivorship. There wasn't
Wow.
anything. And I was like, oh my God, I'm so lost. I didn't know what to do with my feelings. And I
Hmm.
wrote the book initially for breast cancer survivors. And the
Hmm.
podcast I started initially to speak about, hey, did you know that you can use dance and other things like dance to help yourself heal after cancer?
Hmm.
Now, post pandemic, because it came out during the pandemic, and then I realized all my customers were the me before breast cancer
Hmm.
and all of us after the pandemic.
Hmm.
And now the podcast has been rebranded to Dance to Heal Podcast. Life is a dance.
Hmm. Hmm.
And why not make available all the tools of dance studios to
Hmm.
everybody worldwide? We're a
Hmm.
part of an app that's a part of burner phones all over India and Dubai because the economy there isn't great, so people buy burner phones, and the apps are for them to listen, learn, and earn their currency to exchange for
Hmm.
supplies.
Hmm. Wow.
And that's I really want people to be able to hear ideas that
Hmm.
will help them be more empowered, and that's
Hmm.
why Dance to Heal still continues to this day.
And to thrive, not just it's not
Yeah.
just about survival, it's about thriving and being the best that you possibly can be and having the best life, the
Yeah.
kind of life that we all deserve.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and if you think about it, there was a guest on the Diary of a CEO
Hmm.
podcast. He was speaking about, do people not realize in this day and age, no matter what our socioeconomic status is, 50 years ago, the leaders didn't have access to hot showers
Wow.
or the caloric intake that we all take for granted now. And
Hmm.
I'm like, oh, you're right. So I'm not asking us to gaslight our suffering. I'm saying,
Hmm.
just the relative perspective of are things that we take for granted because we're on social media seeing other people in our perception have had better lives than we are, but then are we really, really understanding how good our lives are now?
Mm-hmm.
And then from that going, oh, well, now if I go back and look at all my quote unquote suffering and the things I went through, what was it equipping me for?
Mm-hmm.
In the suffering, you can't see it, but once it's past, right? If I had not gone through breast cancer, well, let's go back. If my husband had not gone through testicular cancer, the workup to get pregnant found I had a chocolate cyst on my ovary that could have turned cancerous. I had severe endometriosis. I did not know why I was like having so severe pain from my periods. None of that was known to us. I never would have gotten pregnant naturally, ever. So the
Wow.
silver lining in that was his getting cancer, storing sperm, going through in vitro because that was the only way we could get pregnant. Found that I would have most likely gotten a form of ovarian cancer or endometrial cancer.
Oh.
So it was that severe, and I did not know, and so that saved my life ultimately. And then we ended up with two miracle babies. You know, oh, when I'm really, really like feeling like sarcastically like a parent, I'd be like, oh, we could have saved all this money, 'cause just imagine the money we would have had. Because kids are expensive. They don't tell you that.
Yeah,
They
well,
get exponentially more expensive.
well, I grew up with four sisters.
So
So, yeah, well, so, okay, five girls. And my mother would always shake her head and say, if I'd have known this, I would have bought stock in pantyhose, shampoo, conditioner, tampons. She says, if I would have known, I'd have been a wealthy
skincare,
woman. Yeah, oh,
hair
yeah. I
products.
mean, it just goes on and on. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
So,
yeah, yeah.
so, Jenny, where can people find you? How can they connect with you? I mean, if the listeners want to just say, "Hey, I want to try this," or "I just want to, hear from you," or how can they go about that? Where can they
Yes,
find you?
yes, you can find me under Jenny C. Cohen, Cohen, either on Instagram or LinkedIn or Facebook. And if you want to participate in my monthly master classes, they're subsidized by a nonprofit called Raw Epiphany based here in Utah. So the tickets are free. You can just attend for free. They're usually on a Sunday early afternoon, and we'll do some of the things that we talked about here, in addition to other modalities that I like people to have access to. And then I'm doing 100 days dance challenge right now. So you just come to IG, follow me, join the broadcast channel Genspiration. You can do that. Or you can message me on any of those platforms. Just be like, oh my God, I saw you on this podcast, who I love. I love Cheryl. And then because of her, I met you. And then, ask me any questions. On YouTube, you can also go to the Dance to Heal podcast. Most of my guests, we're encouraging them to come back and answer questions. So if you put in a question, we'll answer you on that YouTube channel.
Nice, beautiful. And so before we wrap up, is there any final pearl of wisdom you want to leave with the listeners? I mean, you've given us a lot to think about, a lot to mull over. I can't wait to edit this episode so I can hear everything all over again and make little mental notes in my head.
Okay, I give you permission to play. And I say play in terms of not so much a winner and a loser, a play opportunity to grow. One of the skills we were encouraged to do when I was learning to do voiceovers and improvisation for comedy, because I'd studied that during the lockdown. There's a Viola Spolin, a woman who worked with a social worker who had to work with children from war-torn countries that came to the States. And so she had children who spoke different languages, but she had to come up with the play methodology. And they did all kinds of forms of like telephone, things like that, for kids to be able to just explore play with no real winner.
Right.
Okay, so find opportunities for play where there's no winner, but you're in an involvement of being in the moment and just having joy. And it could be like, okay, I'm going to do a random shuffle play and I'm going to have to dance to it no matter what. Or I'm going to only draw with my feet. Like take any any marker. If you can deal with the goopiness on your toes, finger paint, but toe paint, anything where it gets you silly. because we don't have enough of that right now. We need more of that play in our lives.
That's excellent. I actually had someone, and it was quite a long, many, many episodes ago, said, I go out and I play in the mud. And I was like, that sounds kind of fun. And now that I live in Missouri, there's a whole lot of mud. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. I yeah. I'm getting ideas. It's too cold here in Utah though. Everything's frozen.
Oh, well, we're not frozen, but when it gets cold, it gets really cold.
Does.
So,
Does.
mhm. Well, Jenny, thank you so much for being here. This has been such an honor and a privilege and a pleasure to have you on the show.
Thank you for having me.
It's been awesome. Everybody, thank you so much for listening. I really appreciate it. Please share this episode with everyone you know, especially if you know somebody who might need a little boost for some, dance energy, or just give permission to play and lighten up and just have a good time. Look at all these hearts just floating over. Yeah, just, life is way too short not to have fun. And healing through dance is one of those tools that can really help you just live a long, happy, vibrant, and healthy life. That is the way of the FemiNinja.